There are two faculties of thought within the mind, within the thinking apparatus, known as chitta. One is known as mind, the other is known as intellect. Okay? So mind is known as manas and intellect is known as buddhi. Have you heard of the word buddhi? There is also ego, known as ahankara. There is also memory, known as smriti. But I will just focus on mind and intellect right now for you. This is a very popular teaching. This is not a unique teaching in Vedanta. I'm just bringing it forward for you to pay attention to. They are both made up of thought. But what is the difference between mind and intellect? Do you know? Does anybody know? Okay. You are saying that buddhi or intellect can discern and discriminate, which mind cannot do. Why? Because mind is driven by the senses. Okay, you're close. Yes?
You have the feeling that I can constantly work with my intellect. Like I can make progress with it in a way that my mind kind of seems a little more temporary.
So, you're very good. Both of you are correct. The mind, both of them are thoughts. But it is a mind when the thoughts are still in a state of flux. Mind is in a state of flux, so it's constantly changing. So there is nothing you can work with. It's constantly changing based on input. So it sees a beautiful woman and the mind becomes lusty. Then it sees an old woman who's dying and the mind starts saying, oh no, life is so miserable, and it starts crying. So it just changes. So the mind is constantly changing. At the intellect level, the mind starts, the same thoughts start slowing down and start stabilizing into more concrete ideas, building blocks of thoughts. So this is a difference. A very big difference that the mind can only look outwards. So its only reality is outwards. So it relies on the senses and it conjures up reality based on what it sees. Buddhi or intellect is that internal thought scope that can actually look within. So the mind cannot report to you, I am calm. Or even if you notice your anxiety, this is all inward. That is the work of the intellect, which says, I am, it's a deeper level, a deeper deliberation that can happen with the level of intellect. Now, what the mind likes to do is, it likes to trick us. The mind likes to imagine, and it imagines all kinds of scenarios. Future scenarios, past scenarios, longitude, latitude scenarios. It likes to, I was writing to one of the students, then it looks like a bowl of noodles. That's the mind. Everything is all like that. Okay? And the intellect, on the other hand, is, a sorted out structure. Okay. So the mind likes to imagine, and so it likes to trick us. So we think, oh, we got it, but we didn't get it. Oh, but it should be this way, but it's that way. Oh, it should be up there, but it's down there. Oh, but I thought I got it. It should be X, it's Y. Because that's just the way it is. On the other hand, the intellect, instead of tricking us, it guides us. It informs us. It turns on the light and investigates discrimination, whether that is the case or not. How wonderful to have an intellect. The mind only wants to live past or future. It's very skittish in the present. It likes to live in memories, it projects in the future, and it keeps spinning stories, story after story after story after story after story after story. Story, I'll tell a story. In that story, there's another story. From that story, let's open another story. Oh, in the story, there are 3 windows, 3 stories. In the 3 story, 5th stories. Story after story after story. Such is the nature of the life of the mind. The intellect, on the other hand, dares to be present in the present and say, well, that is past, so we need only that much information from it. That's the future. Let's not rush too much. It can slowly create a more moment by moment, present moment reality reports. It's not trying to create a story. It can see beyond the story and say, that's a story. It is only people like Duryodhana and the evil brothers who are like, yeah, I want this, so I have a story, so let's go to war. And they are ready for anything. It's impulsive, it's excitable, it gets easily, it feels urgency at all times. I feel urgent need to do this. Anytime anything feels urgent, you want to question, is it really urgent? Now that word doesn't live in my vocabulary. Nothing is urgent. That's just my mind saying it's urgent. A lot of the times I have time to take 5 breaths and a walk around my neighborhood, and it's still not urgent. So it's not really urgent. So this is all the mind doing it. Yeah. But whereas, so therefore, I wrote some things. So the mind tends to be caught up in a vortex, every mind. Even Arjuna's mind in that battlefield had got caught up in a vortex of this and that and if and but. It's caught up in a vortex. And the intellect guides us through the vortex. Okay. Intellect sounds wonderful. So we are all pretty saved by our own intellect. But the thing is that the intellect is asleep for all of us, until it is awakened and fortified and strengthened. So human beings have been given a marvelous thinking apparatus. So we think we are thinking, but the real thinking doesn't really happen by the mind because it changes its thoughts by the second, by the nanosecond. The real thinking apparatus is only the intellect, which thinks through and thinks one chain of thought to a conclusion to the next chain of thought. And clearly drives the thinking process to the objective goal and stays there. So a new belief system can be created. So when we say we're thinking, human beings are thinking beings, probably not. We have to own our thinking apparatus, which is the intellect. And we have to think that right now we can think that any time I had all these scenarios and then one clear light came through which connected this thought, rejected that thought, moved forward in a reasoning way, in a discerning manner, in a logical manner, in a rational manner, then that is my intellect. So therefore my rational thinking faculty is intellect, and my irrational thinking faculty is my mind. But most of us are driven by the irrational thinking faculty. And when we are 100% driven by our intellect, we are what is known as normal. But when we are only driven by the mind and what lives there is feelings and emotions and quirks and attitudes and whims and memories, then we are probably, to the degree with which the mind versus intellect plays out in us, to that degree we are insane, rational or irrational. Don't take it personally. This is the human universal situation. So what the Bhagavad Gita is trying to tell us is, what the Bhagavad Gita is saying is that blind king, his blind wife, The blind wife is like a blinded intellect and the 100 spawned desires and actions which led to adharma and ultimate ruin and destruction. They represent a mind which does not have an intellect to guide it. So, the Bhagavad Gita says that your own mind becomes your bandhu or your friend when it is paired with its intellect. And that same mind becomes our own enemy when the intellect is separated from it. So therefore, we have in the case of the evil 100 brothers and their blind father and mother, purposefully blind and born blind, we have a scenario of a typical rudderless, conscienceless mind. Is just feeling, reacting, acting, etc. With the Pandavas, we have rational intellect, but then we have the collapse of the intellect due to attachments, because moha and attachment came over. And so what happens is, if the intellect is not fortified, then an attachment can come over and the intellect can collapse. So until the intellect is strong, fortified, you will notice that you're moving in a rational manner and you're enjoying life and you are creating dharma and enjoying the fruits of dharma, and then come across some very strong attachment or emotion and boom, you collapse into the irrational, and that's where you have an episode. And so our Arjuna was having an episode of intellect failure and the complete mind taking over. On top of that, this mind, I told you it looks like a bowl of noodles to me. These noodles grow infinitely very quickly. So once it starts feeling sorry for itself, it can feel sorry to the point of committing suicide. Once it falls in love, it will fall in love to the point of going to Las Vegas and marrying the wrong person. Anything can happen here. Happiness, sorrow, sex, crime, this all happens at the level of the mind. It grows at the speed of like a computer virus. Very fast. Intellect, on the other hand, holds and grows slowly, such as here in the satsang, idea after idea. Every satsang that you come to, what do you grow? Do you grow a muscle? Do you grow a bone? Do you grow more calcium? You grow and nurture and fortify and strengthen your intellect. So much so that when I'm not there, your intellect rescues you from your own mind. Yes or no? May I hear a yes? Yes. So you say, Shunyaji, you did it. You helped me. But actually, your intellect, which is meant to be your inner guide, your inner force, your own mind is meant to help you, helps you. So until our own intellect is developed, the mind, it keeps saying, it keeps going, it interacts even with the guru in a mind manner, with the mind. I want to sit in front of the guru and I like the guru a lot, or I'm going to stay there and audit the guru. The guru didn't look at me, so I don't like the guru liked me, so I like the guru. It's all just changing constantly. When intellect occurs, the student stabilizes. And the guru understands who is the guru, who am I, what is Shastra, what is Ishvara, who is Brahman, and understands the scheme and understands their part in it. So this intellect tends to drown out and remains actually latent until it is activated. In the ancient days, so the Gurukulam system of education, this is what we nurtured, the intellect. Nowadays, in the education, we fill the mind with information and we have no concerns about the intellect. So Either due to past life or something, if we have a better intellect, we have a better life. But in case we don't, we have an impulsive life. We have a reactionary life. We just live based on whatever. If our family is nice, we have a good life. If our family is dysfunctional, we have a bad life. Because the mind cannot find anything but to react. Whereas the intellect can look at a difficult situation and say, I think I'm fine. I'm going to milk this difficult situation and meditate. If it's a good situation, the intellect will say, okay, good time to review my Shastra. So, the intellect can find its way. So this is really important for you to know that what Bhagavad Gita is actually trying to do is not trying to, it's a kind of religion. It's the highest text of the Hindu tradition. I have to tell you that. Why? Because it is empowering each being to become a caretaker of their own self and fully aligned with Dharma, and thereby the cosmic Dharma also takes place.